This is the Cup of Mets podcast.
No intro.
No intro. Episode 14, season 2. Give us a follow on Instagram, on Twitter, and on YouTube. We are at Cup of Mets. Again, we are at Cup of Mets on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. The reason for no introduction and even asking how Rob's doing is, A, there's no baseball right now, but B, the Mets limped into the All-Star break. What do we think of that performance against San Diego?
Well, again, not to losing the series, taking the first game and then dropping the next two, kind of discouraging a little bit. But again, going in a little hot. 6 games under, 7 games out, I believe. There's still a chance, but mathematically, but we'll see how the Mets fare this weekend.
Yeah, and they don't have an easy task, at all. With the Los Angeles Dodgers coming into town. I think that it's just typical being a Mets fan, right? They string, 6 straight wins. Again, they take 2 out of 3 against San Francisco, right? Then they go to Arizona. They sweep first place Arizona team. Then they win the opener against the Padres, and then all of a sudden the shoe falls off. They lose the last 2, and all of a sudden we're back to the Mets that we saw prior to the 6-game winning streak. I'm just wondering, like, if there's any sort of consistency that we can just finally see, because it's I mean, obviously it hasn't been there all season, but
No,
now.
yeah, and you know what the Mets are capable of doing. They come out, they win 6 straight, all road games, which is great for the morale and great for the team in general. But then they after Verlander pitches a gem or pitches well enough to win game one, and then they gut out in extra innings. You want to feed off that, and Peterson pitched pretty good, but offense didn't show up, and then Scherzer just not getting the job done as well. He's given up a lot of home runs this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few things that are plaguing Max Scherzer right now, and it's been evident. And it kind of feels like almost like a hole in our rotation, and not an automatic, which is definitely not ideal when you're paying him $43 million and he's got a player option for next year, and he could potentially be a trade piece. And now he's deciding to struggle after going on quite a run. Um, I don't know if I still believe. I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't know if necessarily, obviously, last time we recorded, the Mets came off a win against the Diamondbacks, and
Crazy one.
a crazy win against the Diamondbacks. And, we were kind of saying, all right, we're moving in the right direction, but just kind of seeing how the Braves are playing right now. I mean, they're tearing it up. They're 16-29. I mean,
Yeah.
we're 18 and a half games back of the NL East. So the NL East is the pipe dream. So now we're just trying to fight for the wild card. I don't know, man. Seeing the last 2, I always say a big indicator of the second half is how you enter the All-Star break, and everything was smooth sailing up until those last 2, and now I have an eerie feeling.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, they didn't really hit the last 2 games, and again, Scherzer just looking how he did the last game, giving up what 6 runs, 5 runs,
5 runs.
5 runs, and
It may have been 6.
well, no, 5 runs,
5 runs.
9 earned runs over his last 2 starts.
Yeah, so 6 was the game before.
Again, and not to get into it, but I wouldn't even be mad if we stayed afloat and they ended up trading him. But again, if you think about it, if we stay afloat, they're gonna keep him. So, and he's making a start in the Dodger series, I believe. So we'll see how he fares against the LA Dodger lineup.
Yeah, he's going to pitch on Sunday, to be determined for the Dodgers. Um, you know, I guess, you mentioned it. Verlander pitched well enough to, put the Mets in a position to get the victory. He went 6 innings, gave
Mm-hmm.
up 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 of them earned. He walked 3, only struck out 2. So he's not inducing the swing and misses like old Justin Verlander, but we kind of saw that a little bit even last year in his Cy Young Award winning season.
Yeah.
So again, he pitched well, and that was a game, for the ages for Francis. Another big game for Lindor, an all-star snub. What do you think of Justin Verlander? I mean, obviously he is not pitching like the $40+ million that we gave him and that we would
Mm-hmm.
like to see, but he's keeping the team in positions to win. And right now, I think with the current pitching setup as well as the current state of the club, I think that's all we can really ask for.
No, yeah, I mean, again, we that's all we asked for to start with when he came back on the IL from injury. Just length in his starts, give the bullpen a rest, and he battles now. I think he's gotten in that groove. Again, not inducing that many swings and misses, but he did lower the ERA to 3.60, and he's 3-4. Again, he's keeping the Mets in the game, and I think like I said, he's gone into this flow, and he makes a start on Friday. I think he'll come out firing for the second half. I think he's just found that groove, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
regardless if it's 6 innings, 2 strikeouts, or 8 innings, 8 strikeouts.
Yeah, I agree. I really do have confidence in Verlander. I know that
Mm-hmm.
there have been a few blimps in the radar this season where you've kind of looked and said, is he washed at 40 years old? Was that such a bad move that the Mets made in the offseason? But I mean, everyone knows how, if you've been listening, everyone knows how I think the Mets should have went in
Mm-hmm.
the offseason. But
Yeah,
all in all, I mean, Verlander, and if you look at the numbers deeper, Verlander's pitched 70 innings
yeah.
across 12 starts.
Mm-hmm.
Max Scherzer has made 16 starts and has thrown 87 innings. Okay. Another thing is Justin Verlander has only started 12 games and he's posted a 1.2 WAR thus far, whereas in Max Scherzer's 16 starts, he's posted a 0.9 WAR.
Wow.
Another alarming thing when it comes to Scherzer is
Mm-hmm.
that normally you see somebody's FIP um,
Yeah,
a
and you're
little
big
bit
and you're big on FIP.
a little bit higher than your ERA, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
ERA is not the biggest and best indicator of a pitcher,
Yeah.
right? When you dive deeper, you would think that maybe with Scherzer's underlying numbers and how he's pitched for the most part this season, aside from a few games, you would
Mm-hmm.
think that maybe his FIP would be lower, and that's a trend that we've seen this year. However, he's got a 4.31 ERA and his FIP is 4.54, whereas a guy in Justin Verlander, not only does he have a point plus WAR advantage on Scherzer, but he's got a 3.60 ERA and a 3.99 FIP.
Yeah.
Right, so that just goes to show you. Kodai Senga then has a 3.85 FIP. So
Congrats, Kodai.
yeah, congrats Kodai on the All-Star Game nomination.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we didn't mention that. Him and Pete Alonso went off to Seattle. Didn't agree with the Alonso selection. Obviously, really happy for him. He lost in the home run derby as well. Lindor really should have been there. Um, and this wasn't even on. This isn't even something that we were going to talk about. But how fucked up is fan voting?
No, I mean, again, it's very unfair.
And then players,
And
when do they decide who,
yeah, that
you
was
know,
that was another one.
Perdomo,
Yeah, I mean, hey,
Gerardo
just get us
Perdomo?
to the offs, Lindor. That's all I ask. Get us to the show.
Get us to the show, get us to the offs. But he's
Yeah.
also, me, I'm a big accolade guy.
No, no,
He's
I
a
know.
four-time All-Star, but currently, if he continues his pace, he's on pace to be a Hall of Famer,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know. I just want to say it. He's posted 3.1 WAR so far this season
Mm-hmm.
already. And he's having a really really tremendous season. So good for Lindor. Obviously, that's off cue there. We
Mm-hmm.
touched upon Verlander and Scherzer, and then in game two, we saw David Peterson pitch, and David Peterson obviously has returned to the rotation, and he really kept the Mets in the game. He pitched 5 1/3, 5 hits,
Mm-hmm.
3 runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. He's starting to induce more swing and misses, and a lot of people, and this is exactly what I was talking about, which we saw with Scherzer for a while, and we're not necessarily seeing it anymore, is that Peterson has a 6.46 ERA and a 4.55 FIP. So Peterson has a 4.55 FIP and Scherzer has a 4.54 FIP. Peterson's also been worth 0.4 WAR this season. You would think a guy that's 2-7 that has a 6.46 ERA would have a negative WAR. He's
Yeah.
posted a 0.4 WAR.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's insane. These new stats.
I'm on top of it.
Yeah, I know. I see you.
But I mean, he's the key for him is obviously the arm action. I don't know if you want to touch upon that a little bit. I mean, it's been so inconsistent.
The arm action.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, again, that's what AAA is for, and even in AAA, he had his struggles, but again, he's back and he's pitched he's pitched not quality starts, but again, compatible for the team. You know, he's got that slider working, and you know when he locates that sinking fastball and then locates that back foot slider, he's pretty hard to hit.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's definitely the key to Peterson's successes. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what he definitely went down or went up, I guess, to Syracuse
Yeah,
to work on. But it's really I'm really happy to see Peterson pitch like this. Um and we're gonna have a new entry into the rotation next week, and it's gonna be Jose Quintana. We're gonna have a 6-man rotation. What do you think about that?
I think it's good in the sense for Kodai Senga's personal level. I think it's good for guys like Peterson. And you know, again, maybe if Scherzer needs an extra day to work on some things, then I know he doesn't like it and he likes pitching every fifth day, but tough luck. And again, Quintana coming back, he better come back guns blazing, throwing up zeros. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, kind of like what we signed him for,
Yeah,
you
pretty much.
know. Considering we haven't seen him yet this year. Obviously, he had a great season last year, split between Pittsburgh and St. Louis. Went 6-7, 2.93 ERA and 32 starts. But again, we haven't seen him yet this season, and
Yeah,
I won't. Obviously, we have to first to judge everything, but I just don't want him being another Jed Lowry. We allocated $13 million to him, and some of our guys in a Kodai Senga especially, and even a Carlos Carrasco.
yeah,
And then we have two 38 and 40-year-olds respectively, and Scherzer and Verlander. A 6-man rotation really could help the team, and
no, definitely,
I think that would pay huge dividends for the Mets when Quintana returns.
100%, 100%. As long as he gets that changeup working, and like I said, just throwing up zeros, we'll be fine.
Yeah. And the last thing that I wanted to touch upon before we just kind of dive into the second half here is
Second half.
the second half. I can't believe it.
I know,
Feels
I
like we were
know.
in Miami yesterday.
Yeah, no, definitely. We were talking about that the other day, and you know what? Third, we're about to be in 2 weeks. We're about to be in our third ballpark of the year.
Yeah, third ballpark of the year at
Yeah,
City Field. Fourth, we're heading up to Fenway for the Mets Red Sox series. So Cup of Mets this
old
year.
stomping grounds right there, kind of.
Yeah,
Massachusetts, close enough, right?
Rob went to school up in Mass. Yeah, so I
Close
mean,
enough.
so Cup of Mets has hit City Field, obviously,
Hmm.
Citizens Bank Ballpark in Philly,
Yep.
Marlins Park, and soon to be Fenway Park, obviously, in Boston. But something that I do just want to ask is, and there's a few things that are contributing to the issues that Scherzer's dealing with right now, but
Hmm.
what are you seeing from Max Scherzer that you think is really stalling his any type of improvement moving forward?
Again, I mean that's tough. I mean, again, the home run ball is really killing him. He's having a tough time leaving the ball in the ballpark. He's leaving pitches out in the outer half where they can drive it and falling behind counts. And again, you know, when he's on, he's on. Obviously, he's Max Scherzer like, and you could see that he's pinpointing his fastball. He couldn't, you know, again, but when he's off, you could kind of tell. I mean, I don't know if age is the factor. I don't know if you know he's experiencing a little bit of fatigue because again, the fastball velocity is there. But again, at the end of the day, I think it's just like a little tweak here and there in mechanics and location and pitch types and this, that, and the third. And you know, again, we'll see how it goes because again, this weekend's big. This weekend's kind of make or break. You know, we throw out our three-headed monster, quote unquote, and if we don't take two, then especially on the start he pitches, you know, then we're in trouble. We might have to reevaluate.
Absolutely. I think the biggest things with Scherzer that I've seen is that slider.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of the home runs that he's been giving up have been on the slider. He's been
Yeah,
hanging them.
and
He's
that's his
still
pitch, right?
Yeah, and that's his strikeout pitch. Obviously, he does have that elevated fastball that
Mm-hmm.
still, as you mentioned before, has life on it between 94 and 96. He's looking good. Something that I really think is contributing to a lot of this is the fact that he is struggling potentially adjusting to the pitch clock.
Yeah.
Um, I think that for some of the veteran pitchers
Mm-hmm.
around the league, they are struggling with the tempo of the game and the new pace of the game and getting set and getting ready. And I think that Verlander is a guy that has always typically worked fast.
Yeah.
Scherzer has worked fast as well, but he does his little struts around the mound. He tosses the ball up in the air a few times and does this and that. And I think that that's a big thing that has affected him.
Yeah.
And he's even mentioned that. I think it's also affected a guy like Carlos Carrasco.
Really. Was it? Yeah, I mean, I seen it with Cookie a little bit because again, he has that he when he takes in his sign, he kind of has like that set, and then he sets again, like whatever. But it's just yeah, and I think again, you've seen it in spring training a little bit, with the veterans struggling, and there have been reports on Twitter throughout the All Star break that yeah, that was kind of like the main reason of why the
Yeah.
starting pitching hasn't been there. Again, I thought Scherzer was a big advocate of it when they first implemented it because again, he said he could like kind of mess around with hitters and hold on to the ball as long as he wants until last second or come set, hold for one, and then pitch right away. But I think my biggest thing is again, obviously the bases are bigger this than the third, but the run game essentially in the league, around the league, like you can only throw over twice. Essentially, if you throw over the first time, like as a runner, you're gonna be like, okay, there's he throws over again, then I'm gonna steal the next pitch. And if he doesn't throw over, I'm going regardless, because he's most likely not gonna throw over two times in a row now, or again where you could throw over at three times in a row before this rule. So I mean, again, it's the run game. I think too, like in general around the league, it's really like messed with pitchers, like you said, their timing, their flow, and that's really it, honestly. I mean,
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt.
yeah.
So I guess my final question to you is, before we head into the next segment,
Mm-hmm.
do you believe, Rob? Still, I know you said this weekend make or
Yeah.
break. I agree with you on that,
Mm-hmm.
make or break. But do you believe right now?
I mean, listen, if they were 48 and 42 and they threw out these three to start the second half, I'm saying yes, obviously. We're going for it, We're going for the wild card or whatever, but 42 and 48 looking at it, 6 games back, 7 games behind the last wild card spot, so that's 13 games you got to make up in the span of the month of July because obviously the trade deadline's in August. I want to believe, but I'm 50-50 right now. I'm 50-50. I'm not giving up, but we'll see where we are July 30th, 31st.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel you. I think it's make or break. You know that I don't necessarily believe right
Hmm.
now. Unfortunately, I've been crushed too many times to believe right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Me too.
I think there's 72 games remaining.
Hmm.
If they win 50 games, then they end up with a 92 and 70 record. So that just kind of shows you how well they need to play here in the second half. And
Yeah, against tough teams.
yeah, so you said you're 50-50. I'm probably 30-70.
Mm.
What are three of your keys here as we open up the second half tomorrow night against the Dodgers at City Field? What are your keys for the second half in order for the Mets to even think about making a comeback?
All right, Robbie Bobby's 3 keys to the second half. Number
Because
one,
I mean, there could be a million, to be
yes,
honest
there
with
could
you.
be a
But
million, but I'm gonna dip, nitpick, and dive right now. Number one, your stars have to show up. Your stars have to show up. Max Scherzer, Verlander, McNeil, Alonso, Lindor, who has been, Nimmo. Shout out to him. He was in Oyster Bay at Cooper's Bluff last night, which is I didn't get to see him, but it's good to see just for the community and let's go Mets. But again, yes, the stars need to show up. That's number one. Number two, bullpen aside from Robertson needs to be on their A game. And when I say A game, I say, hey, you're put in a spot, you got to get a job done. Okay, plain and simple. Because if we stay afloat and if we make a couple acquisitions here and there and we have a shot in September, and I'm not going to name his name, but you know who might come back, then we're in business. Number three, Buck Showalter. You gotta make better decisions in the second half. We gotta play to win every day, not the next day, not next week, not a month down the line. We gotta play to win every game, every day. Not like it's the playoffs. Let's not pick and choose our spots where we can kill a certain pitcher or not make a move when it's not needed or overmanage. But number three, Buck Showalter. Let's see that decision making get better in the second half.
sweet, sweet. I mean,
I thought that was pretty good. Yeah, right.
yeah. I mean, you gave me not a lot to say. I
Oh
mean,
shit,
those.
my bad.
I mean, listen. The bottom line here is the keys for a potential second half turnaround is that the bats need to be more consistent.
Hmm.
We need Jeff McNeil. We need Star
Yep.
to wake up, right? We need Pete Alonso to who everybody's clamoring about. Again, I'm a Pete Alonso fan, um,
Hmm.
but he has a 186 batting average with in balls put in play. Okay, so that means that
It's worse than Schwarber.
That's like
It
Kyle
is.
Schwarber,
It is.
right? And he's hitting 211 on the season, right? So he's hovering around there, and he's also only got a 310
Hmm.
on base percentage, right?
It's
So
the lowest in his career, right?
lowest of his career, yeah. So we need the offense to be consistent, and I'm really looking at those three players,
Yeah.
McNeil, Alonso, and Marte, because Alvarez is doing his job, Nimmo's doing his job, Lindor is doing his job, Tommy Pham's doing his job, Canna is now playing well off the bench, Narvaez is doing well supplementing
Hmm.
Alvarez. It's just we need to see those three bats really wake up. The second key for me is I'm not even going to say Justin Verlander because I honestly do have confidence in Justin. I'm going to say Max Scherzer.
Okay.
Get your shit together.
Okay.
And then the second thing is on that is Jose Quintana. Dude, we gave you I don't know, I think it was
Good point.
13 million bucks.
13 and a half.
13.5 million bucks for 2 years. Wake up, be healthy, give us 5, 6 innings at first, 2 runs or less, and then, ramp it up. I know that we want to ease you back into this. And if we somehow have a shot in September, we want to have you healthy. But, we need a good Quintana, the guy that we signed. This past off season. And then the lastly is I agree with you, Buck Showalter, but I'm going to include Billy Epler in that as well.
Okay.
Okay. Reason being, Buck Showalter does need to pull his head out of his ass in certain occasions. He needs to stop managing so old school. He needs to stop managing on track records,
Yeah.
and he needs to start managing on how the player is performing that day, that series, right? And then the Billy Epler portion is, listen, I know that he was not the general manager when this occurred,
Hmm.
but I don't want to see the Mets hovering around 500 with so many teams to leap in the wild card, and then the Mets make a crazy trade and wind up, I'm just using the example when the Mets traded Pete Crow Armstrong to the
Oh, for
Cubs
Javi
for
Baez.
for
Yeah.
Javi Baez and Trevor Williams, right?
Okay.
Right. So that's my thing,
Yeah.
right? You just want to see Billy Epler. Obviously, it would suck for us not to be in contention, not to make the playoffs, but be smart. Obviously, we have the highest payroll in baseball, and we're supposed to, and we're win. But
Hmm.
don't do anything stupid that's going to jeopardize our farm system and our team because we can turn it around really quickly, and win next year.
Yeah.
So it's funny, Rob and I put together 5 players that we think are key to the Mets' second half turnaround, and it turns out that they are all the same, no?
Yes. Pretty much. I don't know about the order wise, but they're the five same players.
All right, so you're gonna know the 5 players right now. I think it's Max Scherzer, Jeff McNeil, Pete
Mhm.
Alonso, Starling Marte, and Adam Ottavino in that order. Rob, how about you?
Yeah. So mine was Pete Alonso first, Max two, McNeil three, Marte four, Otto five. So
Why do you put Alonso one?
I just put Alonso one because again, the 211 average is kind of concerning. Again, the home runs are obviously still there, but when he's struggling in general, he doesn't even hit home runs. So again, he needs to go back to just staying compact, like Keith always says, spraying the ball all fields. And he's at his best when he's driving the ball to right center, and it's great to see from him because his shots from right center are literally soaring line drives, opposed to just bombs that he put when he pulls them. But if he gets going, I think the lineup gets going, and he brings the energy regardless. But Pete Alonso needs to step it up a little bit, get that average up from 211 to maybe like a 240.
I feel you, dog. I feel you, dog. Um, I think a player that really goes unnoticed when a lot of people are mentioning guys who need to turn it up in the second half. We both
Yeah,
agree, Adam Ottavino.
yeah,
I just think that there's been a lack of a bridge to David Robertson, and
definitely.
especially if we get that aforementioned that you mentioned before, the player that could potentially come back
Yeah.
in September. If we
Hmm.
get him back, we need the back end of the bullpen to be what it can be, and
Yeah.
a subpar Adam Ottavino, who's really pitching poorly. If we're really kind of getting down into the nitty gritty, he's been worth negative -0.2 WAR this season. He's got a 479 FIP.
Hmm.
The 372 ERA is there, but he's got a 479 FIP.
Yeah.
He's no longer the human slider. He's the human lollipop.
Yeah. No, and also he has trouble holding runners on. I think that's another pitcher that's been affected by the pitch clock and the new rules.
Yeah, and again, it's the veterans, right? It's
Yeah,
the guys who tend to take a little bit longer, and
yeah,
obviously that does affect them. But he also doesn't even like throwing over to first base in general,
hmm
because it kind of messes with does with a lot of pitchers. So, I think a lot of people should, agree on that. I think obviously, you know, if a guy like Omar Narvaez, it would be nice to see him hit when he plays. Obviously, Daniel Vogelbach, who's played better towards the end of the first half. A
yeah.
Vogelbach would be nice, being there in DH. Mark Can, if he can turn it on, really compete with Tommy Pham. But I definitely think that those five are the guys who need to turn it up if we're gonna turn it up.
hmm All right, Ian, you tell me we're sellers. Who are you selling on this Mets roster?
Who aren't I selling? No, no, you know me.
Who's the Givens?
Mikel Givens?
No,
No,
no, no, no.
no, no, no.
Who's the Givens in terms of is going to get dealt if we're eventually sellers?
For me, it's Tommy Pham.
Mhm.
It's Mark Canna.
Okay,
It's David Robertson.
okay,
It's mm, mm, I think that an argument for Brooks Raley,
okay.
even though he's under contract for next year at
Yeah,
$6.5 million. Um,
he's a good. He's a good. He's a good lefty.
he's a good
Yeah,
pitcher and he would fit into the bullpen nicely next year. It just depends on how much the Mets want to amp up
yeah. Mhm.
um that farm system. And then the other one is Ottavino, right? I don't know if the team is going to be willing to take
Okay,
that the second portion of
okay.
that of next year, but as we know, Steve Cohen says that he will eat the money in order to necessitate a trade, and that
Yeah,
kind of brings us into someone who you were talking before the show about somebody who you think should be dealt. It's been spoken about, and obviously he has to pitch a little bit better in order for us to
yeah.
get maybe what we're going to get. But
hmm
go ahead and dive into that a little bit because you think a big time name should be traded.
Nah, listen. Again, if we had the opportunity to really bolster our farm system with with young talented arms, I think again, and Scherzer, if he picks it up a little bit, I think Max Scherzer would be somewhere where the Mets get a little creative and kind of just again deal him if the need be or the opportunity presents itself. Again, we're out of it. Not only not mathematically out of it, but again, if we're just kind of like running on fumes towards the end of the season, towards the end of July, and again, we're still 6 or 5 games under 500, then I think you consider it. Again, I like the trade proposals, and this is why I love Ian because Ian's freaking creative as hell when it comes to his GM cap. Especially when we play MLB the Show. But he definitely puts up a lot of trade proposals, and I looked at the Texas Rangers as a nice, or even the Baltimore Orioles, honestly, as a nice fit for Max Scherzer. Again, I think if he gets dealt to the Rangers, that trade proposal you made with getting Ronald Acuna's little brother and Jack Leiter over here, along with a lower level, maybe like a 15 through 20 arm prospect from the Rangers, and I think that fills that void. Since DeGrom's out for the year, so
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on Scherzer. Obviously,
yeah,
$43 million. I would assume that he's probably owed another what $10 to $15 million this year, and then the full 43 because he's going to opt in unless he goes on a second half for the ages and pitches to where he can actually opt out. But given his age, I guarantee you he will opt in. Um, something that I did put out, you mentioned a potential trade proposal with
yeah,
the Texas Rangers. The
mhm,
Rangers have pitched phenomenally this season of DeGrom.
yeah,
They also have the resources, the money, right? Something that I said, and Acuna's younger brother, that would be nice, right? That one I think may not occur. Something that I
yeah,
put out there was Max Scherzer, David Robertson, and money
hmm
sent to the Texas Rangers in exchange for Jack Leiter,
okay,
who is the Rangers' fifth overall prospect, Cole Winn, a
hmm
former first round draft pick, who is currently their 13th overall pick, as well as infielder Josh Smith, who
yeah,
can make a difference right now.
definitely,
The other one that I had was Acuna, Leiter, and Win. And we would be sending on Rayleigh and money because the Rangers bullpen is in need of some help. You mentioned the Orioles. I could see that as well. Another team that I like, very low key. They have to stay in the race, however, is the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah.
They have the money. You saw them go on, for Rodon. They tried to re-sign Rodon. They tried to bring in
Hmm.
Aaron Judge. You know that they have the money,
I think
right?
that'd be a nice little 1, 2, 3 punch for the Giants.
Yeah, and
Logan Webb is nasty.
Logan Webb is really
Yeah.
nasty. And
Yeah.
something that I said was it's funny that, what was it, 2011. So 12 years, 22, 12 years ago or
Mhm.
11 years ago.
12.
Years ago, I'm an ass. 12 years ago, the Mets sent Carlos Beltran
Yeah.
and money to the Giants
For Zach
straight
Wheeler.
up for Zach Wheeler, right? And
Yeah.
something that I put up was what happened if the Mets send Max Scherzer as well as money to the San Francisco Giants in exchange for Kyle Harrison, who's their number one overall draft pick,
Hmm.
left-hander, and who I believe is the 15th overall prospect in Major League Baseball
Yeah.
or something along those lines, or just
See if Billy can put like his fleece cap on.
yeah, but
Try to fleece the team.
then again, do we trust Billy Epler making these trades?
Not really.
That's that's my thing.
You need to really
You're
look at deep dive.
you're gonna have a guy who most likely is gonna be let go in the offseason unless you make the playoffs.
Yeah.
You're gonna have him wind up tearing down some of the formula that he put together, trusting that he's gonna be able to put it into the farm system and bolster the farm system. And I don't trust Billy Epler because I don't like Billy Epler. And also Kyle Harrison is the 12th overall prospect in Major League Baseball.
Nice.
So those are just two. Before we wrap up here, episode 14. Episode 14, geez. Season 2 of the Cup Mets podcast.
Jesus, right.
Unreal.
Time flies.
Time flies. Time flies when your team. Uh,
I think that's how it goes, right?
yeah, something like that. Something like that. Looking ahead, as mentioned before, the Mets will start the second half tomorrow night with Justin Verlander taking the hill against left-handed pitcher and to be free agent Julio Urias. That'll be tomorrow night. On Saturday, it will be starting pitcher TBD versus TBD. And then on Sunday, as far as we
Heard they're pretty
yeah,
good.
and then on Sunday, as far
Yeah.
as we know, it's just Max Scherzer as of now. Not sure he's going to pitch for the Dodgers, and then the Mets welcome in the Chicago White Sox for 3, and then as we said before, the Mets head up to Boston, which we will be in attendance for. We'll be on the way, yawking it up with some people. I hope that's not a word that I don't know how to use. Rob, any final thoughts here? Any words of encouragement that you can give the listeners before we dive into what could be either a really exciting and amazing or a tumultuous and really shitty second half? Any words of encouragement for the
Big,
viewers?
first of all, big
You like
words,
that?
man. Good job. Nice vocab. But nah, listen, for my youngins, for my young Mets fans, enjoy it. Take it day by day. Don't get too high, don't get too low because again, when if we win 3 in a row, the Mets can easily lose 10, 11 in a row, right like that in a blink of eye. For my veteran listeners, for my veteran Mets fans, you already know how this goes. We're either gonna make some noise and make some magic happen and believe, or we're gonna just fold like we always do and have bags over our heads come September. But listen, at the end of the day, baseball is a great game. Enjoy it because it went by fast. We're already in the second half. Let's go Mets, everybody.
The only thing I want to add to that before we sign off is to the youngins, if you are under the age of I don't know, maybe realization of life. I don't know what age is that? 4, 5?
Realization of life.
You're an idiot.
You
You're an
realize you're
idiot.
living.
I started actually rooting for and knowing who like the manager was for the Mets in 2002, right? So when Bobby Valentine was
Mhm.
on his way out. All right. So for anyone under the age of 7 years old,
Yeah.
consider maybe um preserving your emotions with the second hand, or consider changing teams, rooting
Mhm.
wise, if you're under the age of 7, because after 7, you're
Yeah.
stuck here in the orange and blue. And as
Mhm.
Rob said, some of the vets, including us, even at 28 and 27, we know it. You get really high, and then all of a sudden you just fucking crash. And we're not looking for that to happen. But again, episode 14 is in the books. For Robert Venegas, I'm Ian
Love.
Bothniak. Remember to give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, as well as subscribe to our podcast here on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And again, good night, everyone. Take care.